Today's guests work in the shadow of Justin Waller, Myron Gaines, and the Tate brothers.
Sometimes becoming friends with the back-end people, the people that are running the systems, is the best move that you can make.
Coming from a small country in Europe and dropping out of university, he mastered the art of YouTube, and without any personal brand, grew 9 channels to over 100,000 subscribers.
You get a little bit of traction, that's when you start building funnels.
But after years in the shadows, he is revealing all his secrets and expertise about what he learned from the biggest personal brands alive. Thomas Viscintas. Thomas, my brother, we made it to the podcast. Here we go.
Thanks for having me on, man.
How are you?
I'm doing amazing. I'm just always staying busy.
Same. We have to stay amazing. Look, we have a beautiful places, we have a beautiful life. I mean, at the end of the day, we just have to be grateful.
Absolutely, man. I mean, as long as you're working every single day and you stay busy and you're always constantly chasing different things, like life just, continues to present its own challenges and you just solve those problems and you just keep getting better each day.
Tell us more about your story from the beginning. Who is Thomas and where everything began?
Yeah, so basically, when I started doing YouTube marketing in the first place, I started with this one small dating coach. His name is Myron Life Dating. And when I was working with Myron Life Dating, it was not from only like a digital marketing standpoint first. I joined his group, which is basically an $800 course back in 2020. And my whole intention when I joined it was to learn as much about business, as much about fashion, networking, basically anything that a guy would need to just overall level himself up throughout his career. So I joined it. My expectation was to just learn from it. I was not trying to get any sort of position in it. I was just trying to learn as an 18-year-old. And I was living in Chicago at the time. So I showed up every single day to those classes, always asked questions, always came prepared. And every single day they just noticed me, like the group. There was 50 people in there, 60 people, and it reached a point where the main member of that group wanted to hire me for an internship role to help with his YouTube channel, since that's how he brought me in the first place. I watched his YouTube channel, I joined his link in the bio, went to a landing page, sales call, and then I ended up into the group. So I helped him with that whole process, with clipping up live streams, clipping up long form videos, and that helped me learn the skill of YouTube. So I grew his channel for, I'd say maybe 6 months or 7 months, and got him an extra 1,000 or 2,000 subscribers. It was nothing super significant. But the main skill that I learned was just showing up every single day. Also really making sure that you just continuously improve on different things. So I didn't know how to do thumbnails. I learned the skill of thumbnail design. Then I learned the skill of just taking clips and finding viral hooks. And all those skills ended up translating into different areas. And I grew the channel for a while, for like I said, 6 months, 7 months. And then within that group was Myron Gaines, which today is the host of the Fresh and Fit podcast. And this guy didn't have any sort of YouTube channel. If he did, it was maybe a few thousand or a few hundred subscribers. But my goal was to get him on some sort of client deal. But the way that I had to do it was not through the standpoint of like the traditional way of outreaching. I joined one of his consultation calls to get into one of his programs. I joined the consultation sales call to join his fitness program, and it was too expensive for me. It was, I think it was like $2,000 a month. So I just bartered with him, like, hey, instead of paying that $2,000, why don't I just negotiate a smaller price where it's $500 or $600 a month, and then I get to do your thumbnails, your titles, and then I get your program for free, which is, I just wanted to build muscle. Like I was, 170 pounds, I wanted to get 180. So did that, and slowly but surely, I ended up growing Myron's channel from 700 subscribers to 1,000 subscribers to 2,000 subscribers. And what I did was just creating long form content, just basically scripting out ideas. So back in the day, back in 2020, there was no AI. So you would have to come up with the ideas yourself. So you would look at what other fitness coaches are doing, what other dating coaches are doing, and then you would come up with bullet point ideas. You would tell the creator how to create the content, and then they shoot the video. So that's what I did with Myron. Pushed him every single day to just shoot content. At the time, I think it was like 2 or 3 videos a week, and his channel just grew slowly but surely. And it started out as a fitness channel, and then eventually transitioned into dating. But that's just a portion of my story. That there's a lot more to that.
Yeah. Tell us more. A more like general, first a more like general direction so people can understand better where you come from. As like a student, you dropped out and then you had like this business that at the start was like small and then it went well.
Yeah. So obviously, I went to university for 1 year. I went to DePaul University in Chicago, was studying management information systems. But at the time, I was getting good grades in school, but I just knew that this is not the thing for me. I tried other different majors like economics or finance. I looked at all my options, and out of all the options that I had, it was not that great. And I didn't want to do marketing because I heard marketing just didn't really translate into any sort of career. So I just started looking at what are my options online. Because back in 2020, COVID was about to hit, and there was going to be a lot of time that you can spend towards doing different things. So I decided to get into coding because everyone was saying that coding is the next big thing. You got to learn how to code because you're going to end up getting a good job. You're going to make 6 figures. So I started this Udemy course at the time back in 2020, and I did it for maybe like 1 week or 2 weeks, and it just didn't really work out too well. So it just transitioned me into something even better, which is YouTube marketing. And yeah, I was doing the mentorship group. I was helping the creator, Modern Life Dating, and my mentor, Modern Life Dating, what he told me is like, hey, Thomas, like if you're going to go full time in marketing, you have to just go 100% into it. You shouldn't, go 30%, like 20% and just go university. Try and do this 100%. And he said, the best way you're going to learn is by moving out of your parents' house and going into the real world, which is Miami. So I told him, like, I actually want to go to Miami because I see Miami's taking off, and I just I ended up packing my bags one day, and I just ended up moving there. Just didn't really think about it. Found a roommate. The roommate was actually someone that wanted to grow a YouTube channel as well, so I bartered a deal with him for a lower rent for only $500 a month, and I grew his YouTube channel, and that gave me the way to eventually move to Miami. And eventually, I was working in person with not only Fresh and Fit, I was working with my roommate, who is Legal Mindset, whose channel is now at, I think, 300 or 400,000 subscribers, as well as another creator, Sterling Cooper.
So a lot of people have this common experience, go out of home and go as far as you can. How did your parents react to that?
Yeah, so my parents, they're very supportive of me to this day about like just everything I do with what I do in marketing. Initially, like any parent, they're just not supportive about it initially because it's not that they don't want you to do it, they just don't know what it's like. So what my parents said was like, you should finish education, you should finish college. And obviously my standpoint on college is a little bit different, but it took maybe about a few months for them to understand that, moving to Miami was probably the best decision for me. And ultimately everything worked out well. Like I ended up making good money in Miami. I ended up getting myself out of the position where I was only making $1,500 a month to making over $10,000 a month in Miami, just living comfortably. And everything just went super well. No problems to this day. They're very supportive.
Nice. You kept the relationship with them.
Absolutely.
Because of that. Oh.
Yeah, there's no point of making your relationship with your parents bad because of what you do as a career. You have to understand that sometimes they're an older generation, so they're going to have different viewpoints on education and different viewpoints on whatever their viewpoint on the world is. So you have to understand that as a young guy, you're going to ultimately do things that are a little bit different. And those different things might come off different to their generation.
what would you say it's the three biggest values that your parents transferred you and helped you in this journey?
Yeah, the biggest value that I would say that they transferred into me was just hard work and staying organized. So with hard work, I've always, from day one, really focused on just getting tasks done throughout the day. So making my bed, making sure that I eat breakfast, also working out. I started working out when I was 15 years old. So those different things, my parents really instilled into me since I come from a small country in Lithuania. And as an immigrant child, since I was born in Lithuania, when we came here, we had to work hard. Since my parents were in construction, trucking industry, painting industry, so all those values were instilled in me, and it just really helped me in my day-to-day life with marketing, which is completely different from what they did. And the other thing is just organization. My mom, my dad, my sister, they're all very organized people. So they keep everything tidy in the house. They keep everything very clean. And all those things actually really do contribute to not only just keeping your room clean or keeping your, let's say, your computer desktop clean, but most importantly, you just know where everything is. So you know where your checklists are, you know where how different tasks throughout the day need to be organized. And just having those two skills from my parents just really helped me out in today's world.
What about your mentors? Who was your first mentor? Was it like Myron Games?
So I've had many different mentors. My first mentor was John, Modern Life Dating, so Jonathan Hogwood. Then my second mentor, I'd say Myron was a really big influence to me. What Myron taught me was just pure hard work, staying up until 7 a.m. and just working your ass off. Myron's probably the hardest working people I've ever met in my life because he's willing to stay up past 3 a.m., 7 a.m. He'll have the weirdest schedule on the planet. He'll go to bed at 7 a.m., wake up at 6 p.m., and then shoot a show. So that's something that he really taught me. And he's honestly like a drill sergeant. When you meet him in person, you actually work for a guy like him, he's going to expect the most out of his people. So he's going to make sure that you show up on time, that everything is prepared. He's also very organized as well. And he just really cares about not only his people, but also everything getting done very efficiently. So that's one thing that Myron really taught me. And then outside of Myron, I've had other mentors in the past, like Sterling Cooper. What he taught me was the importance of keeping everything organized within systems. So he showed me basically different funnels for his email, how he used ConvertKit to convert customers, and just really taught me like how to script videos. That he was the first person that kind of taught me like a more organized method of doing scripting. But he also taught me how to actually set up automations. After Sterling, Justin, I'd say, is probably my biggest mentor, Justin Waller. Justin really matured me as a person since when I started working with him back in 2021, I was only 21 years old. So I was living in Miami. I only had maybe 7 or 6 clients under my belt. And he just taught me how to not only, become a more effective leader, but also how to build teams. So Justin really taught me that big skill. He also took me across the whole world, going to places like Dubai, Romania, London, all across the US, showing me construction job sites since his industry was mainly within the construction space, showing me real estate, and just really making me more aware of what the world is like. Going to places like Louisiana opened my eye up because in Louisiana, which is basically the deep south in the US, the world is a much different place than when you go up north to places like Chicago or New York or even LA. So he just gave me a really good reality on the world, but most importantly, he taught me a lot of great business skills that to this day I'm still applying and everything that I was able to build up with this team. So those are my main mentors. I've also had other coaches in the past that I've consulted with, but those ones are definitely my main ones.
A lot of us know Justin Waller because of what he did on Instagram, because of the dates. Tell us more about your experience with him. How did you meet him in the first place? How did you connect with him? And how did you provide value to him wanting you to be his mentee?
Yeah, so with Justin Waller, how I met him was through Sterling Cooper. So with Sterling Cooper, I was able to get his channel up from 2,000 subscribers up to, I'd say maybe it was 50 or 60,000 subscribers. And Sterling was like, you need to meet Justin. And Sterling was really good friends with Justin because of the Worm. They were in this networking circle, and he said that Justin is interested in building a personal brand. You should meet him in Miami. So I was like, absolutely. I checked out his Instagram. I can tell that he had a presence to him. He looked like a football player. So naturally, if you see that someone looks like a football player and they have high energy, you're going to want to meet them because they have potential in some sort of area. So I met Justin in Midtown Miami, and right off the bat, when I met him, I was like, this guy has star power. He has the energy, he has the looks, he has everything that you need to build a personal brand off of. So I spoke to Justin for, I'd say maybe 20 minutes, kind of explaining what I do. Then he kind of went over his story on like the whole idea of climbing the mountain, how he grew himself from, basically being broke when in his mid-20s to making millions of dollars by the time he was past the age of 30. And his story really resonated. So I was like, hey man, I would love to build your YouTube channel out. I can do this for $800 a month, and I'll grow you in the same way that I grew Sterling. And he was like, let's do it. So from there on, I just showed up to Sterling's place because Justin was just staying at Sterling's because he was going back and forth between Louisiana and Miami. He was not sure if he was going to stay in Miami at the time, so he was just kind of commuting. So every time he would come back from Louisiana, I would show up to a spot, and I would script out the videos. I would tell him what to shoot. And we shot our first batch of videos back in 2021. I'd say probably it was either June or July, but we didn't release our first video up until August of 2021. Once we released the video, we got maybe 200 views, 300 views per video, which is actually not really bad. Anytime you get 300 views on any sort of long form video, that means that you're getting the right sort of traction. So we released 9 or 10 long form videos in a row on the YouTube channel. And Justin is a master networker. He's probably one of the best networkers I've ever seen in my life because he's so charming in person. He's a great person to be around. He's very humble when you meet him, and he's able to get into different spaces in different rooms at the right moment. So he was able to take his networking skills that he developed through construction and real estate and apply it into the YouTube space. So he was able to easily connect with people like Fresh and Fit, which was some of my clients I was working with at the time, Sterling, because they were obviously good friends. He also was able to connect with Raul Tomasi, since they really related on the same subjects. And from those 3 creators and a couple of other smaller creators that maybe had a few hundred subscribers or 1,000 subscribers, he was able to build up momentum. And once you get the momentum on YouTube, it's very hard to stop that growth. So we went from getting 300 views to getting 1,000 views, then 2,000 views. And we kept shooting long form videos as we were doing podcasts with those creators that I mentioned before. And as we were getting more and more of those views, we got more collaboration guests. So people wanted to invite Justin on this time instead of Justin inviting them onto his podcast. And when Justin, his whole idea is that he doesn't want to be the podcast host. Like, Justin's the type of person where he's kind of the star. So it wouldn't make sense for him to have a podcast himself. So he would go on other people's channels. And through those channels, he just built up a lot of noise. We were able to use that for clip purposes. We were able to create short form content off of that. And before you know it, he got to 50,000 subscribers and then eventually 100,000. But there was also a lot of other things in between. Just being with the Tates as well really helped him out since he was really good friends with Andrew and Tristan, especially Andrew. And he just took off really fast. I'd say probably within 6 months to a year, he was able to get really good traction.
And from there, like, have you ever met the Tates?
I've met the Tates quite a bit of times, yeah. The Tates are really, really cool people.
What would you say is something you didn't see online, but you saw in person with them?
So the first person I would say that a lot of people don't talk about is Tristan Tate. Tristan Tate is probably one of the most interesting people you're ever going to meet in your life because he has such a great knowledge when it comes to history. He's able to speak on it as if his mind is an encyclopedia. I think he might have got that gift from his father, if I'm not mistaken, but he's able to read a book and be able to recount on any sort of history fact that you can talk about. There's facts that I thought that I knew of that Tristan was able to tell. Like, for example, I used to live in Nantucket, Massachusetts, and I mentioned the whaling industry and how there were ships that were going all across South America to get over to the Pacific Ocean just to hunt whales. And Tristan was able to tell me a full story about the whaling industry and how Nantucket was one of the most well-known spots for the whaling industry. And he was just able to just really fascinate me on his ability to learn different things and just be able to recount it. Andrew, on the other hand, is way different from his brother. They're kind of similar in some ways in terms of personality. They always make jokes with each other, but Andrew is a more serious guy. Once you meet Andrew, he's very straight to the point. He's very like, let's do this task, let's do the next task, let's move on to the next subject, let's go to the supercar. It's like he just doesn't stay in one spot, and he's always constantly working. Sometimes he's a very intimidating person to be around, is the one thing I'll say. But once you get to know him, he's probably one of the most respectful people, and he's also one of the most fascinating people you're ever going to meet. So the two personalities are very different. Andrew's more serious. Tristan's way more outgoing. It's much easier to talk to Tristan Tate than it is to Andrew, but for their own reason. They're both very respectful people. They're very polite, and I've had nothing but great experiences with both of them.
Wow. How do you recognize if a person is trustable?
So if they can hold their word. So if someone says that I'm going to get X thing done by a certain time, let's say 12 p.m., and they actually do it, then that's when I can trust them. If they hold their word to whatever they say that they're going to do and they actually execute on it, that's when I can trust a person very, very easily. I also can trust a person based off of what their lifestyle is. If someone is a little bit too flexy, I've noticed this in the Miami space and in the Scottsdale space, I trust them a little bit less because they don't understand how to hold a little bit of humility in their lives. And those two things, I'd say, showing up on time, but also being respectful towards people and not showing yourself off too much are really good qualities when it comes to hiring a teammate, but also just finding a good person to be friends with.
What about hiring? What did you learn from Justin Waller about hiring, and how do you hire right now?
Yeah, so the biggest luxury I had with Justin Waller was that I had tons of applicants because we were able to build such a big brand through YouTube and through Instagram. And just his connection with the Tates brought in so many people that wanted to work for us for free. Like, I could literally hire someone the next day to work with us for, let's say 3 months, 6 months for free. And they just wanted to show up every single day. That's the power of building a very powerful YouTube channel. So what I did when it came to hiring editors, when it came to hiring script writers, when it came to hiring any sort of copywriter, was just really asking them a list of questions to see how hardworking they are. That's all I really look for, is to see if someone's actually willing to put in the work when they say that they want to put in the work. I've had applicants that they say that, I'm going to do this and I'm going to work super hard. I'm going to wake up at 6 a.m., whatever it is. And then they never end up doing that. Those are the people that I ended up filtering out. But the people that actually showed up every single day, the people that actually asked questions every single day, the people that were a little bit more, I'd say, humble, on the humble side, those are the people that I ended up putting into bigger roles. The people that I've noticed tend to perform the best, I've seen from like a geographical standpoint, is not Americans. Americans, I'd say, were the laziest people out of all the applicants that I've had. It's the Eastern Europeans. I'm not saying that from a standpoint because I'm Lithuanian and all that. I've just noticed that those people specifically tend to have both the humility but also the hard work. And I hired a bunch of people from Poland, Romania, Czechoslovakia, all those areas, because they just had those two factors, which is humility and the ability to work hard and show up every single day.
Would you say something because of society, how society developed there?
Yeah, just think about it this way. A lot of their parents ended up living in communist Europe. So a lot of European states back then were under the Soviet Union rule. So their parents, had a lot of the mentality of working hard, waking up early, showing up every single day, and those aspects of their lives got translated over to their kids. So it just it naturally translates really well from the online marketing world to business. So that's why a lot of those Eastern European hires that I've had, and a lot of my friends to this day came from Justin Waller's team, they all have those ability to be able to show up and just work hard.
Now, how many are you in the team, and how do you keep people accountable there?
Yeah, so currently my team consists of 2 script writers and 2 editors. So it's 5 people on my team, including me. And basically what we do is we just do tons of research on YouTube topics to make sure that we're going to get the most high performing video. So when it comes to getting a really high performing video, you have to focus on 3 things. It's the title, the thumbnail, and the topic itself and how it's going to perform. So we do a bunch of research on vidIQ to make sure that everything just ends up properly aligning with whatever the trends are, and then making sure that the title and thumbnail are good. And as long as we're able to get those 3 things and we're able to drive people over to a specific funnel that's ultimately going to get a sale, then that's when we can convert them into a sale. So just to clarify, 4 team members, including me, so it's 5, and we just operate on a day-to-day basis to drive viewers over to our YouTube funnels.
What about your team in 10 years? How do you see that? How many people would you like it to be formed by? And how do you see in general this business going in 10 years' time?
Yeah, so I don't know what my team's going to look like in 10 years or 5 years because it's so hard to know, especially with what's going on with AI. I'd say it's probably best to keep your team as small as possible. I also know that if you're going to get to a bigger scale, you're going to need more people naturally. But in my mindset, I'm probably going to keep my team relatively small because you don't really need too many people for YouTube. I'd say the number one team role that you probably need as a YouTube channel or as a YouTube agency is the ability to have good script writers, people that actually are able to prospect for the right types of topics. So if I were to scale my team a lot further, I'd probably hire 5 script writers for 10 or 20 different channels. So because those are going to be the highest leverage people. Also, thumbnail designers are very important because you need a really good thumbnail to really be able to scale a channel. But outside of that, you would probably have some sort of salesperson. You would probably have some sort of person that's managing your automation since AI is going to take over. And I'd probably keep my team relatively lean, maybe maximum 7 people. And I've seen a lot of agencies have a lot of success with that. Because if you start scaling your team too much, you're just going to have to deal with a lot more personal problems. I've seen a lot of CEOs nowadays that are making over $1 million a month. They'll have big teams, but it's a lot of day-to-day tasks that you have to manage. You also have to manage a lot of people's emotions because people are human beings. So you're going to have to watch over them. You're going to have to make sure that they're staying on track on different things. And it just turns into a really big job to be able to manage a lot of different people. Obviously, you can do it from a higher leverage standpoint. There's always a way to get higher leverage in every situation, but ultimately it eats away most business owners when they have tons of people on the team.
Mm-hmm. What about you, from person to company? What changed? And you changed. How did you change?
Yeah, so just to clarify, from what changed, like from where I started to where I'm at?
Yeah, so from singular person, you were working with some guys to having like employees and stuff. How did you change from before to after?
Yeah, so when I first started, I was more so, my mindset was to get everything done myself. As you get more leverage in any sort of business, you're going to always figure out how can I take what I'm not really good at and replace it with other people. There's a lot of tasks that I'd say that I'm okay at, like for example, videography. I'd say I'm decent at videography, but there's people that are way better than me. I'd rather hire that person and have him do the task instead of doing it myself. Let's say it's a thumbnail designer. I know how to use Photoshop. I know how to use Premiere Pro. I know how to use all those programs, but I guarantee you there's probably someone that's way better than me. And as long as I just know the basic aspects of how to use Photoshop and Premiere, then I'm able to create systems and SOPs that are able to outsource those different people. So when I started, when I was 18, I was doing all the things myself, but now I'm transitioning myself out of those roles. And I do sometimes do a lot of those things like Photoshop and Premiere every now and then. That's something that I still do to this day. But I just know that if I'm going to scale and be able to make over $100,000 a month in my agency, I can't do any of those tasks. I have to have other people do it. So now my maturity level has just grown because now I'm just aware of what I need to do to be able to scale the business and also my team, because it would just be unrealistic for me to do everything. I'm just going to bottleneck everyone. I'm going to end up bottlenecking my client as well because I just can't do as many tasks all at once.
How do you evaluate the value of a person? Is it just how trustworthy they are and how humble they are? Do we have like some metrics with which you evaluate the value of a person?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, like I said before, if I'm able to see that they're hardworking, but also they're just trustworthy to be around, and they just don't come off as like I know it all, those are the people that I'm going to ultimately trust. The one aspect that I really focus on with people as well that I forgot to mention is that they need the ability to always be learning. People that are always curious, and also if they have high energy throughout the whole day, those are the people that I'm going to want to be around. You don't want to be around a low tone person. You want to be around a high tone person that is willing to show up every single day and just be energetic, because you don't want Debbie Downers on the team. You want people that are just willing to run through walls and show up and just be happy ultimately. Those are the people that I just want to be around. I don't want to be around people that are stressed out or angry, because then it just drags your whole team down. So I'd say those two things, if they're willing to always be learning, they're always watching YouTube videos or they're watching courses, they're always trying to better themselves, but also if they have high energy and they're not low tone people, then those are the people that I'm going to want to keep around myself.
There are a lot of InfoSpace guys that watch this podcast. How did the InfoSpace change from 2019 when you started till now?
Yeah, so when I started working with the info space back in 2019, 2020, that's when it started taking off. Info, if I'm not mistaken, I know that it did exist before 2020, but it wasn't as popular until after COVID. Because after COVID took place, that's when a lot of businesses started moving to places like Miami or Phoenix, Arizona, Scottsdale, and they started basically portraying themselves with more so of a Lambo, Rolex type of standpoint. So I'd say from 2020 up until I'd say maybe 2022, 2023, maybe up until like even now, a lot of brands focus on a lot of flex. But now how the info space is transitioning is it's more so going for humility types of videos, less edited videos, videos that are more so telling the truth. And I see the trend shifting towards authenticity over flex. The flex still does perform well on Instagram. I've noticed anytime, like, let's say I post something that is like a Lambo or, I don't know, hanging around the Tates, like that's going to perform well. But a lot of people don't understand that if you show the humble side of you, that's going to actually build up a lot more trust, and it's going to lead to a higher likelihood of getting a sale. Versus in the past, the more Rolexes you can show, that was a higher probability of getting a sale. So the pendulum has swung on the other side. It used to be flex, now it's more authenticity. And eventually it's going to go from authenticity back to flex. That's just how the market works. And it's always been like that. Throughout history, it's always been going back and forth between, showing the rich side, then the humble side. And it's going to keep transitioning back and forth.
That's interesting. In how long do you see this switch again?
I'd say, I don't know exactly, since I haven't worked in this industry long enough. I've only been doing this for 5 or 6 years. I bet you if you were to ask a Ty Lopez or any of those types of people, Jeremy Haynes, they would know this since they've been working longer than me. But maybe 5 years, 6 years, and then it'll probably swing back. That's that's probably what it's going to be. Like, I don't know if you noticed, but crypto used to be a big trend back in 2020, 2022, but now it's AI. So it just keeps transitioning back and forth into different things. And I guarantee you there's probably going to be something else in a few years that's not going to be AI.
What would you say it's the most difficult thing right now to do in the info space that everyone has to do, but it's very difficult?
The most difficult thing I'd say is to have the ability to turn on your camera and start shooting. A lot of people are just afraid of just getting on camera, but in reality, no one cares. You can be shooting outside and no one's gonna give a shit. So I'd say it's the ability to just be able to just suck it up and just start shooting videos. That's the hardest thing about the info space. Once you get the camera skills down, it starts getting more clear as to what the next step should be. So the hardest thing when you start might be shooting videos, but then once you get the camera thing down, the next thing is going to be, how do I get more prospects into my funnel that I can sell? Yeah. So it's just a different, it's a different transition. You just go from one problem to another, and that's ultimately how businesses grow. You just start with one fear, and then you move on to the next fear, and to the next fear, and then eventually you solve all the fears that you have, and you're making, I don't know, $1 million a month.
Look, I can super relate with this. I spent 6 months saying I'm gonna start a YouTube channel before starting that 1 year ago, and I think was one of the best decisions I made. And I mean, it's not just about saying, okay, start a YouTube channel, because you start something new. You have, as you said, you have new problems, you have new solutions to find, and it's very interesting as well. You told me you started actually posting more stuff by yourself 2-3 months ago. How did it work? Like, why did you choose only 2-3 months ago to start, and how is it working right now?
Yeah, so the reason why I started posting recently is because I joined a mentorship group. It's called Agency U, and they just taught me that, Thomas, you have to start posting. If you want to get yourself out of a feast and famine cycle of getting clients, you have to put yourself out there. And that's the mentality I had, is like, if I'm going to scale this business, I have to make people aware of who I am. No longer in this day and age in 2026 can you get clients off of referrals. Referrals are very unlikely to get. You're going to get a very low quantity of them, and even if you do get a referral, there's no likelihood. There's a high likelihood that they're probably going to drop off within 3 or 4 months. So you have to always constantly build your pipeline, whether that's through posting videos on Instagram, whether that's cold DMing, whether that's running ads. You have to put yourself on all fronts, because there's no such thing as having a consistent pipeline of people through referrals. So that's the way that I'm kind of going through different things right now. Like, I'm still figuring myself out right now on Instagram. If you were to look at my Instagram profile right now, it probably looks a little bit messy because I'm trying different things. But ultimately, I'm going to build up the Instagram channel. I'm also going to definitely start a YouTube channel pretty soon, because if I'm growing YouTube channels, I have to have a YouTube channel myself. That's the best way to build up credibility. And yeah, I just learned it through group mentorship. I've grown tons of people to 100,000 subscribers plus, 9 channels to over 100,000 subscribers. But it's different when you do it for yourself. It feels a lot different. And also you have a lot more energy to do it. I've noticed that sometimes I'll put more energy into myself than I do into my clients. And that's why I need to hire more teammates to be able to have their own ecosystem. So like, let's say I hire a client right now. I need to make sure that that ecosystem is able to be fulfilled in the same exact way that I would treat my personal brand. So that's ultimately what I do, is I post content consistently to get more clients, but also I do it also as a learning process. I actually do love, posting videos and post content. Like, it's a very fun game.
Now, we talked before with Thomas before this podcast about the info market and how the info market in real life actually is a small part of the whole market. There's a corporate market over bigger that no one talks about, and it's very curious to go deeper on that.
Yeah, so as of recent, in the past few months, I started working with one of my clients who's in the medical device sales space. and it opened me up to a whole different world, which is basically the corporate side of business. So these are companies that are selling medical device products. So anything that you could see like within a surgery room. So beds, any sort of, let's say, like towels or gloves or any sort of utensil that would be used in the surgery room. There's also other types of mechanisms that I don't understand since I'm not in a medical device sales space. But you'll realize that when you visit a lot of these corporate companies, they have tons of money. And they don't care about social media in the way that the info space cares about social media. They just care about, one, actually helping their patients, but also being able to scale a business to a point where they're exiting for hundreds of millions of dollars, even billions of dollars, getting acquired by companies like Stryker or Medtronic or any of these big corporate companies. There's tons of them out there, especially in the United States. So in the past, I'd say 3 or 4 months, I've visited places like Philadelphia, New York City, Miami, Orlando, Scottsdale, Chicago, all these different places where a lot of these big corporate companies are located. And I visited their headquarters. I visited a lot of their studios and their office spaces. And the way that corporate thinks is nowhere near the info space. They just operate a lot differently. And a lot of them try and stay private. You'll notice a lot of the CEOs with these companies, they don't have social media presences. If they do, it's probably LinkedIn and that's it.
What would you say, like, why would you say that? Do you think it's like more a strategy or they don't want to show themselves?
Yeah, so I'd say it's probably from a risk standpoint. If they make themselves look bad, it could hurt the company's values. It could cause any sort of trouble because a lot of these companies are publicly traded. So that's one thing. And the other thing is that the mentality of a lot of these people is more so just kind of staying within like kind of the corporate space. Like a lot of these businesses, like a lot of the CEOs are hired by different shareholders and there's a lot of terminology that I'm still learning to this day, but there's people above the CEOs that are putting them in those positions. So they're always on a watch. So posting something on social media that might be considered controversial could hurt their position. It could hurt their job opportunities. And that's why a lot of, I think CEOs and business founders, they don't go on social media. And also a lot of them are older. So anytime you deal with any sort of older generation, they're not going to want to post. But I will say it is becoming a lot more acceptable to post in that space. And it just, there's a big opportunity in that market.
About opportunities, what would you say are the best opportunities right now from your point of view?
So a lot of people will say AI, and I do agree with that. But there's so many different niches that you can get into. Like one niche that I've also had the chance to work with one of my clients is in the CPG space, so consumer product goods. I'm looking at that space right now, and I see no YouTube presence at all. That's a big opportunity that if anyone were to tap into, you can make millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars, because that space, and to clarify what CPG is, it's consumer packaged goods. So these are healthy snacks. These are any sort of vitamins that you see, supplements. These are like physical products that you see on the market that you don't really think about. Like they have really good marketing teams, but they just don't showcase it on YouTube or Instagram because it's just a different sort of marketing. So that's one area that I see a big opportunity in. There's also a lot of, right now the home service industry is really taking off because as AI and info is, I'd say, kind of becoming more and more common, people are starting to realize that construction space and the blue collar space is a big area that has a lot of interest. So, because there's not that, it's kind of like an unglorified industry. It's dirty, it's messy, it's a hard industry to get into, but there's a lot of money. So I've noticed a lot of people like within the marketing space are starting to run a lot of paid traffic. So any sort of Facebook ads or Google ads, there's agencies that are getting created from the home service space. And I don't really see that many YouTube channels out there on for a lot of home service people. So these are like roofers, contractors, painters, and all those. So I'd say CPG and home service, those are the two big opportunities.
For the ones starting right now and having big ambitions, what do you suggest to do at first, step by step?
Yeah, so the first thing I would do is try and find a skill that you can just take baby steps on. So my cousin Damus, he's when he started marketing, he was 13 years old, and I trained him up to do video editing. That skill in itself is going to put him in such a large advantage when he's my age, like 25 years old or 20 years old, once he gets out of high school. So start with something very simple, something that's more technical based. Let's say if you're going to do marketing, I'd say video editing. If you want to go into, let's say, running ads, you also learn video editing because that's a very transferable skill. So find something that's technical. Video editing is a really good skill. Copywriting, learning how to copyright. So basically looking at different hooks and seeing what works well, and just kind of taking step by step, just like any sort of business owner. If you were to start a business right now and you want to start a social media brand, first thing you do is you start shooting videos. Then after that, once you start shooting videos and you get a little bit of traction, that's when you start building funnels. So I'd approach the same thing for any sort of person that's trying to get into the space, is take small steps. What you can also do is on Gemini or on Claude, just look up, how do I start the skill, and walk me through an 8th grade language, how I'm going to grow in this area. And Gemini and Claude and any of these AI platforms are going to give you a very good roadmap. And I also would suggest that if anyone's starting in business, you start working out immediately, because what working out is going to do is it's going to build up a skill set of just staying disciplined, consistent, getting to bed on the right time every single day. And I think just those two, if you were to do those two things, you'd definitely kill it as a young guy.
Mm-hmm. You had a lot of big people connected with you. Would you say connection is one of the way to speed run the business journey?
Absolutely. Especially if you have a really dialed in Instagram, you can use that to your advantage 100%, because what Instagram has is it has those on top, it says followed by, and then it has like different bubbles of people. If you're going to DM anyone on Instagram, let's say it's an influential person, and they were to see that they're following the same people that follow you, you just have a massive advantage when it comes to selling to them. However, I will say it's just a foot in the door. It's only going to get you the opportunity to speak to them, but when it comes to actually getting them on some sort of deal or getting them to work with you, that's a completely different skill. You have to actually learn how to sell them. You have to actually provide value, but it's going to build up the opportunity to be able to connect with different people at a certain level. Also, posting on Instagram with influential people helps. Posting awards that you've actually gotten, that you've genuinely helped people achieve, that really helps. Showing results on Instagram also really helps. And a combination of all those 3 or 4 things, that just puts you at a massive advantage on Instagram.
Now, let's make a comparison between Instagram and YouTube. What is better, Instagram and YouTube, for personal branding?
So I will say, if you build up a YouTube channel, you're naturally going to have all the other social medias handled. You're going to have Instagram handled, you're going to have TikTok handled, Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever it is, because YouTube is the most powerful platform, because it builds the most trust. If you can speak on camera for an hour straight and build up an audience, and even if you get 300 viewers, you just have a lot more power than any of the other social media platforms, because you just have the ability to get people's trust at a very long form level. If someone watches you for 1 hour straight, just understand how much that person is already going to know about you, and they're going to trust you a lot more. Versus Instagram, if you were to scroll on Instagram right now, you're going to see a bunch of different videos. And a lot of these videos are 30 seconds long or 60 seconds long, and you're not going to understand that person at a level that YouTube would have. So I would say, out of the 2 platforms, YouTube or Instagram, I'd pick YouTube, because you're just going to build a lot more trust. But Instagram is also really good. But I'd say Instagram is a lot better as a networking tool. It's more so of a business card that you can use to get opportunities with other YouTubers. So the way I view it, like for my personal self, is once I build a YouTube channel, that's going to be my biggest trust building platform. That's what's going to ultimately build up a long-term stability with my brand. But Instagram is really more so to get the sales or different connections with people, because Instagram is really good when it comes to getting any sort of person on sales, because you can ultimately do either link in the bio sales or DM sales, which is super lucrative.
What would you say is something you wish your 19-year-old version knew that you know right now?
I'd say probably building up systems and processes. That's the biggest thing that I wish I would have known a lot more, and just put myself out of the business more and focus more so on the systems. Like, there's tons of people out there right now that are doing a little bit too many tasks. And I'd say I'm still guilty of that myself. Like, there's still a lot of things that I'm doing right now that I need to outsource. And if I were to tell myself when I was 18 or 19 or 20 years old, it's to hire immediately if you have the ability or the financial means to do so. Because you're just going to end up leveraging yourself. And once you have leverage, you can just scale so much faster. So I'd say having the ability to leverage other people is the most valuable skill that I think I should have learned when I was younger.
You never talk a lot about money, leverage. What would you say is the main currency of business and of success in today's world?
Can you clarify that a little bit further for me?
So, the currency is what gives you power, put it this way. The currency is what gives you power. Some people say it's money, some people say it's leverage connection, some people say it's trust. What would you say is the modern day currency for excellence, for winning in life?
I'd say it's a combination of all three. If you have money, if you have leverage, and you have the ability to connect with people, like those three skills are very valuable. But if there's one thing that I will say that probably beats all of them is the ability to have trust. Because if you can build trust, you can get any sort of deal. Because I can't count the number of times where I was just a trustworthy person because I was clean cut, I was fit, I showed up in the same black t-shirt every single day, and people just liked me because of that reason. If you can build up trust with people, there's a lot more opportunities that you can have because of that ability. So trust as a young guy is a lot more important than your networking ability. Because let's say, like for example, Justin Waller, when I was working with him and I started working with him on his personal brand, the reason why he kept me long term is because he knew that I was going to show up every single day. I was going to show up well prepared, and I was going to put in a lot of hard work. That's hard to do in the world of business. And if you lose trust, and I've seen tons of YouTubers out there that have just lost trust within their communities, it's so hard to build it back because so many people have deemed you as an untrustworthy person, and then you just start tanking. Like your life just starts going down.
Yeah. Let's return on your expertise, YouTube, your expertise. Now, I already know you are really good at that. Nine channels to 100k subscriber plus. Let's do a practical thing. I'm gonna show you my screen.
Okay.
You're gonna analyze my personal YouTube channel, so while people can follow.
Okay.
So I started this like 1 year ago, didn't post much, just keep the consistency once a month. I had some videos that went, I put them in the archive, how do you say, only link visualization. And it's just, would you say some advices to keep growing that and to keep the personal brand growing in every aspect?
Yeah, so for your channel specifically, I've already looked at your channel, I'd say for, 5 minutes, but that's all it takes me to just understand what the strategy is and what you need to do a little bit more of. Right now, I really like how you're laying out your structure of the video. So I told you earlier, I think on a FaceTime call, that I like the mountain. I like having like more so of a unique look. One thing a lot of people don't have is they don't have a uniqueness to them. So my uniqueness is I've always been myself with wearing black shirts. So I'm going to keep wearing black shirts. With you, it's going to be having the Italian mountains in the side, wearing, let's say, a white button-up shirt, showing yourself in a more elegant way. that's one thing I do really like about your channel. The other thing I'll say is that that maybe you can improve on, and I don't know if you've been posting for a year or two now, but staying consistent. Yeah. So I would say staying consistent, posting at least once a week. But if you can do 2 or 3 a week, then that's within 6 or 12 months, you're probably going to get some really good traction. A lot of people say that you need to over prepare your videos, and I understand that, like from a research standpoint, because you're going to have a higher probability of performing. But if you can release videos consistently every single week, I'd say 2 or 3, you're just going to have a higher probability of having one of those videos pop off, because it's not because the algorithm is rewarding you for posting more. It's because you just have a lot more trials towards having a video that's going to pop up. Like one video you might post right now and you're like, okay, the lighting here is trash. The way that I spoke with energy is not that great. Let me just make that small tweak. Next video, make that small tweak. Maybe there's like a few more views that get added on because of that little small change, but then you do that for the next video. And once you build up that traction, YouTube's algorithm can score basically just looking at other viewers and how long they watch a video and how long they stay on the platform. And when they see good indicators that your channel is having good energy, it's very interesting to watch, then that's when they start pushing in the algorithm. So what I would say for your YouTube channel is post, I'd say 1 to 2 times a week. I'd say that's probably a good rate. The other thing is, I would say for the trailer, I do like the trailer that you just posted, since if I'm not mistaken, that's like a recent video, but I would have some sort of channel trailer that kind of explains what you do. So that's where really having an offer in place is going to be really important. So like what your channel is about, like who, like the customer you're serving is, but doing it in a more entertainment and more educational way as your channel trailer. The other thing is I think the banner is good. I'd maybe have some sort of value proposition, which basically explains like what you do. That way, if someone were to land on your homepage, they know exactly what the channel is about. The way I would treat the homepage is it's kind of like the VSL landing page within any sort of funnel. So naturally, you're going to have your channel trailer for new people. You're going to have videos that well represent what your channel is about. I'd probably have the latest videos on top, and then you would have maybe like 2 or 3 playlists. With those playlists, it basically goes over what your core values are. So if like, let's say you're in the construction space right now. With the construction space, you would have a video, let's say a vlog journey. Then the next video is going to be a playlist is going to be a how-to. And you structure it in a way where if a new viewer were to come over to your channel page, they know exactly what it's about. Can you go real quick to your video tab? And then scroll down a little bit. Okay. So I like the thumbnails. I think it well represents like the age you are. So I don't know how old you are currently, but having the month aspect of it shows that you're a guy that's learning different things. So I would continue with that. I think that works well. What School of Hard Knocks did really well that I think a lot of people don't do is they don't try and look at themselves as like a young person interviewing different people. So in your age bracket, I wouldn't try and give life advice over to people. I would position it more so like I'm learning from other CEOs. I'm learning from other operators in marketing. And that's where you're going to have a lot more leverage, because if, let's say, a 30-year-old were to watch your channel right now, he would kind of view you as like, oh, this guy's young. Like, I don't want to watch this channel. But if you come from a standpoint of I'm learning from these CEOs, I'm learning from these founders, he's going to have a higher likelihood of watching your channel because he just knows that you're a kid that's learning, and people that are older are always trying to learn as well. So I'd position it in that sort of standpoint. But right now, I think you're doing a great job. I just think if you were to stay consistent and stay consistent with the thumbnails, stay consistent with the titles and everything, then you would definitely grow much faster.
What would you say? Because now, for example, I put here, I just made a video recently, 6 days ago, where I said, okay, this is the year, 1 year I documented everything, and this is 7 lessons I learned. What would you say are the formats that work the best? And is it better to have various type of formats, for example, podcasts, videos like this, always on the same channel? What would you say?
Yeah, so anytime you're starting out, I would keep everything to one channel, because if you end up splitting your focus, you're going to end up kind of shooting yourself in the foot. So keeping the podcast, the vlogs, and the long form videos on the same page would be a good idea. The one thing I think a lot of people make the mistake of, and I actually did a consultation with one person recently about this, is that they'll go into different topics. And once you go into different topics that don't relate to the original thing that you're creating videos on, you're just going to end up creating a situation where the algorithm is not going to know how to categorize you. So if you were going to do videos on trucking, you should only do videos on trucking. If you're going to do videos about bow and arrows, you should only make it about bow and arrows from now on. So staying consistent to one topic is the most important thing. And from your video standpoint, like just looking at it, I think it's good. I think it's good to have just learning from different lessons, because it fits your overall brand of just basically learning from different people. So I have no problem with that. I've done tons of day in a life videos where it's like you're learning different lessons, you're kind of showing the journey, and I think it's good. I have no problem with that strategy.
Perfect. Let's see. Here we go. Now I would say 3 lessons you would give to people wanting to reach your level of networking and level of life. You didn't tell the guys that now you live in your apartment in a different place than your own. Do you want to expand a little bit more that?
Yeah, so the biggest thing I'll say is if you're going to try to ultimately go into a certain space, like let's say marketing, for example, for me, go in the city where there's going to be a lot of marketers. So I moved to Miami because in Chicago there's a lot of finance people. I was not going to really connect with that many marketers and social media people. So moving to Miami was a really good move for me, because I ended up connecting with different people within the social media space that were very easy to walk into. Like there's tons of times where I've seen celebrities in Miami. I've seen people like Shakira. I've seen people like David Beckham. I've seen all these people in Miami. Not saying that you're going to connect with them, but you're going to see maybe lower levels of them, like a Shelby Sapp or an Alex Eubank. Like you're going to run into them all the time. And a lot of those people are going to have managers underneath them. And some of these managers are going to be managers of, like, let's say the filming section, or maybe they're managers of editors. Have good relationships with those people, because ultimately those people are going to connect you to the bigger people. A lot of people try and connect with, like, let's say the top dogs, like the people that are like the business owners and whatever. And that works as a strategy. I've tried it myself and it definitely does work. But sometimes becoming friends with the back end people, the people that are running the systems, is the best move that you can make. So I'd say those are 2 pieces of advice. Move to a city that has a lot of entrepreneurs, and then connect with the lower level operators. And then the third piece of advice, I would need to think about it for a little bit.
I mean, out of these, where can people find you right now?
Yeah, so right now I'm in Scottsdale, Arizona. So in Scottsdale, it's a very similar environment to Miami. There's a lot of entrepreneurs here. There's a lot of business owners. I'd say it's a higher level of network because you're closer to California. Naturally, anytime you're closer to California, you're going to have a lot more tech owners. You're going to have a lot more people that are, I'd say, a little bit more serious in business. So it's a different type of clientele. It's kind of similar in Miami in some ways in terms of content creators, but it's just a higher sophisticated customer.
And now let's come back to the beginning. How have you been becoming this version of you, the version of Thomas we see right now? Step by step, brick by brick.
Yeah, so the way that I became my version of myself is just basically just never giving up on certain things. Every single day, like, there's always going to be something that is not the most comfortable thing. But as long as you tell yourself that everything's going to be okay and you have to push through it, that's how you build resilience towards yourself, and that's how you ultimately just keep growing in life. Like, there's been many times where I've had clients fuck me over in the past. I've had people step on me. There's been people that used to be my friends that are no longer my friends. That's fine. You just have to keep pushing forward. And I'm still learning to this day. I'm only 25 years old, so I'm sure there's going to be a lot more shit that happens to me. I'm sure there's going to be a lot more unfortunate events, but you just have to know that it's okay to go through those things. And ultimately, you're still going to get out of it as long as you're every single day telling yourself that I'm not going to give up, because there's no other choice. I've already met tons of people that have made tons of money. And I just know that just meeting those different people, like everything's possible. They've made millions of dollars, and sometimes it's not just about money. Just to be clear, it's not money. Sometimes like they do focus on relationships, and you have to take those, you know, personal aspects of life. But you have to look at those people and say, like, I can reach that person's standpoint, and there's no reason for me to give up now because I think, you know, I had this one bad event happen to me. Like, you just got to keep pushing.
Oh, this was the best piece of advice. This was the last of the three. We just had to reframe that in another way. Thomas, thank you for being here. It was a great talk. And where can people find you online?
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram mainly. It's Tom Got Visions. I also do have a business profile called Videos That Convert. And I'm going to be starting a YouTube channel very soon, and the channel name is going to be Videos That Convert. So you can find me on any of those 3 platforms.
Perfect. Pleasure to meet you again, and talk to you again. Talk to you soon.
Thanks for having me, man.